I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is rushing and how we often hurry from one thing to another and miss life that's happening while we're so busy rushing. So let's take a look at that and how maybe we can find a way to smell the roses along the way and enjoy life a bit while we engage in all our doingness. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, energizing, and electrifying all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the wonderful tickling and tingling and all that sensation. And allow that to bring you present to your body, to this moment, right here, right now, in these amazing physical forms that allow us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Lisa. So good to have you here with us, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us this morning. Today's topic is rushing. And so many of us get caught up in doing, in the doing, and rushing from one thing to another, and there's never enough time, and we have a lot of phrases in our vocabulary like time is short and time is running out, and limited time only, and all these different kinds of conversations about rushing, and I think we get to look at this idea of rushing from a couple different angles. One is it may be that we schedule ourselves for too much, that we pack our plates full to overflowing, and therefore we're rushing from one thing to another. As I'm saying that, it occurs to me that good morning, Rosalind. So glad you're here to join us. We're talking about rushing, and it occurs to me that even if you have a really packed schedule, rushing is an inner state in so many ways. I think it's an anxiety that about not being able to maybe fit it all in, or not being able to get it all done, or that like there's this inner experience of rushing. And what happens when we rush is that we're not really paying attention, we're not present, right? Where we are, we've put our focus, we've extended our focus to an end point, like I gotta get there, and I'm rushing. And as I'm rushing, I'm not present to what's going on right now. And as a result, things can go awry pretty easily, like we can make mistakes more easily. We can forget things, we can miss important information because we're so busy rushing, we're so focused on where we have to be, that we're not being present. And I had this conversation comes up because I have a friend who was talking about how they're always rushing through life. And what happens as a byproduct, where if you're rushing, you're not present. And so you don't get to enjoy life in this moment. And guess what? Life only occurs in this moment. Like, this is the only place that life exists. The future and the past are both concepts. And all there is really is this moment. And if I'm spending it projecting myself into another place, I'm really, really missing out on this moment. I'm missing out on life. And so I want to dig a little deeper into the dynamic underneath rushing, like what's there, what's actually going on when we're rushing. I think it might be sort of an extrapolation of kind of a lack mentality, like there's not enough time. And I think that we can conceptualize this in the context of life itself, to feel like time is running out as we get older, especially. I only have so many more good years or whatever. There's a place that we can come from that is, we have all the time in the world. Like, time isn't bounded. And I know that we can objectively argue against that notion because, we die. So the fact of the matter is that we're here for X period of time, right? And maybe we want to cram as much into that time as we possibly can. So we rush. And in that context, we really don't experience any of the stuff that we're cramming into all that time. And I think that we are also looking at the shift from human doing to human being, where rushing is all about doing, and I want to do more and more and more and more. And I think that we can source an expansive place of being that allows us to really deeply presence ourselves to the moments that we have. And even if this is in the context of lots of doing, we can be being in that context, if that makes sense. Like this morning, for instance, my cat, Jewel, you heard a lot and knew a lot about Maggie, but Jewel is the cat that has kept me, who has been such a wonderful companion for 15 years. And she's the one that gave me permission to have Maggie in the first place. But so Jewel gets picky about eating periodically. And so I went out this morning before this to buy her some more food. And I had a bounded window of time to do that. And I did it, and the timing was smooth and easy, and I had extra time. And I could have been rushing, And I'm thinking that if I had been in that mindset, it would have been because I would think there's not enough time, there's not enough time. So there's a scarcity mentality maybe behind the rushing. You know, it's going to take the same amount of time, whether I get myself all hyped up to be rushing, or in fact, it could even end up taking more time if I'm rushing, because maybe I forget things, or I'm not all focused and present on what the task at hand is. And then you miss out on that block of living, right? Because you're being someplace else. So I'm wondering if rushing is a thing for you. And if so, what do you notice about it? Like what's the underlying dynamic that you're aware of? And how does it feel to be rushing? You know, I think it feels to be on behind the eight ball, so to speak, you know, because if you're always rushing, there's no satisfaction there. Besides the fact that there's no presence, there's no satisfaction. You know, maybe the satisfaction is actually in, we can't have satisfaction unless we're present, right? To be saying, you know, to allow life to unfold, to allow ourselves to truly engage in what's here right now. You know, what's available to us when we do that, when we allow ourselves to ease into the moment, you know, instead of rushing. What would be the opposite? It would be a sense of a sense of ease and flow, right? A sense of ease and flow, to be flowing with the moment, to be allowing for the spaciousness of time. I've done some experiments with myself and around time, expanding time. So let's say you have a meeting and you have to be there in 10 minutes and it takes 12 minutes to get there. I don't know if you've ever experienced this phenomenon, but I have, where I got someplace in less time than it took to get there. So somehow expanded time to be able to move through time to meet that timed objective, that timed outcome. I'm wondering if any of you have ever had that kind of experience where it's like, I don't know how that happened. You know, I got there on time, I left late, you know, I hit traffic, and I still got there on time. And so that begs the question, what is time and who are we in moving through it? You know, so in so many ways, time is a concept, right? And if it's a concept, how can you have too little of it? Or good morning, Elaine. Wonderful to have you here with us. So Elaine says, running, rushing around are ways that one distracts oneself from the one in the mirror. Fear of sitting still and just feel and be with what is, no matter the judgment of what one thinks it is. Awareness of what is keys for all, is a gift in and out of time. Awareness of what is a key for all. It's a gift in and out of time. Awareness of what is. Exactly. So what you're saying, if I can shorthand it, if you don't mind, is to say being present. And your point in the beginning of what you said is running, rushing around are ways to distract oneself from the one in the mirror. So it's a way that we get to avoid being present to ourselves, being who we are, and and putting our attention elsewhere. I agree, Elaine. So if we're always rushing and running around, then we don't have time to be reflecting on ourselves, or to be looking at ourselves, or to be, well, I don't know. I think some of us manage to cram that in there too, but it is certainly a distraction for sure. And Lisa says, I'm a formerly late for everything person. I can get up early and still be late, but now I'm habitually early, really early. So interesting. You made a radical transformation of habit. One of the things about being late that I learned a long time ago. Good morning, Christina. Haven't seen you here for a while. I'm gonna just continue with Lisa, and then we'll get to your comment. So what I learned about being late is that it's hugely disrespectful to somebody else. You know, like if I'm making someone wait for me, I'm really being disrespectful of their time and their commitment, right? And if, for instance, if I'm meeting somebody and I'm late, there's a lack of respect for that other person's time and their gift of time to meet me, for instance, right? And so being on time is a show of respect, as far as I see it. You know, that realizing that I'm important enough to them that they're making time for me. And I think that sometimes when we're late, we don't have a perception that it makes any difference to anybody else. But when we get to recognize that we're important to somebody else enough to be meeting with them, that's a big deal. And I used to be so rigid about time. That was something that I learned through landmark education, actually, you know, as being on time. And not being on time is sort of a FU to the person that you're not there for. So I got really, really rigid and rigorous about it. Not that they were saying to be rigid about it. And then over the years, I've managed to be able to relax a bit around that. But punctuality matters. It's something that matters to me, and it's a value that I hold, and it's a way that I respect others. And I recognize that not everybody has the same value. So sometimes people will be late to getting together with me, you know, and I don't take it as an affront as I used to at a certain point in my evolution. So anyway, and I have to say, Lisa, to be habitually early, really early, like if I have an arrangement to meet somebody, have somebody over at 9 a.m. and they show up at 8:30, that's problematic for me because I might not be ready. You know, maybe I needed that extra time to do something. So, you know, it's one thing to be at the place early to make sure I'm there on time and then wait until the time to go in. But, you know, look at being really early. Is that also generated by fear of being late? So there's a balance, you know, to being early, being on time, being late. And if I'm going to be late, I typically will alert the person as soon as I'm aware that I'm going to be late, you know, so that there's out of respect for them, So just something to consider, Lisa. Lisa says, I drive around, I never show up at someone's house early. Okay, good. I love it. So you get there in time, you get there early just to make sure that you're going to be there on time. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So Christina says, I had a huge change recently with a rather traumatic break to a couple bones requiring screws and plates this Tuesday. Oh my gosh, Christina, I hope you're okay. I hope you're not in terrible, terrible pain. Wow. My reality has drastically changed and I cannot rush for a while. Quite an adjustment, but I'm up for the challenge. So, you know, sometimes our bodies are our greatest teachers where they just make us stop. You know, getting sick, breaking bones. That's a big deal, Christina. So I wish you speedy healing and easy healing. I know that's a huge deal. And now you get to take your time. And that's another really important phrase for us to recognize. Take your time. You know, like allow yourself to receive the time that you need to be able to move through commitments, obligations, responsibilities, all of that. Lisa says, I get that now about being being disrespectful to the other person, and that you matter, that you actually matter. My mom would tell me a time an hour early to get me on time. That's so funny, Lisa. I have people that I have worked like that with as well in my life. So Christina replied to Lisa saying, we do that with some in our lives. Yes. As I was saying, I too have people, I'll tell them earlier so that they get there on time. And Rosalind says, waiting is the opposite of rushing. I don't think time may be perception. Rosalind, I agree with you 1,000% that time is perception, but I don't think waiting is the opposite of rushing. I think presence is probably the opposite of rushing. Waiting something else. Waiting's a whole other thing. I think we've talked about that a bit. Lisa says, smell the roses, don't trample them. I love it. Oh, that's so good, Lisa. Smell the roses, don't trample them. When we rush, we end up trampling the roses, I think. Elaine says, facing who you're not, come into love unconditionally with the one in the mirror as one remembers the one true self. If the soul came to remember through this life expression, as life experiences itself, and to achieve the chosen life experiences, all unfolding perfectly in this beautiful awakening. Elaine, I love where you're coming from, and sometimes it's really hard to follow your words as they're written. But I think you're going back to loving oneself unconditionally and being present, and that allows us to allow life to unfold with greater ease. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you mean, but I'm hoping I captured the essence of that. Christina says, yes, taking time and prioritizing my healing, it literally could make the difference in how I can walk, run, and hike. Exactly. So, you know, the idea of pushing the river, there's no win in pushing the river. The river is going to flow the way the river flows. And when we push the river, what are we doing? We're creating resistance. We're creating resistance. What else can I say? As we do that, we're missing out on the moment. And in your case, Christina, really by trying to push things rather than being present, focusing on what's here right now, focusing on your healing, it really truly can have a long-lasting consequence. And you can look at this metaphorically, where you say it literally could make the difference in how I can walk, run, hike, etc. And it does make the difference. Whether we have healing to do or not, it totally, good morning, Dennis. So good to have you joining us. It really could deeply, or it does, make the difference in how we walk, how we run, how we hike in the world, if we're rushing versus if we're present. An entirely different experience when we're experiencing life rather than trying to rush through it. Yes, Rosalind, rushing versus presence, 100%. 100%. So when we're rushing, by default, we're not present. Elaine says, be the rose. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. That's brilliant, Elaine. Thank you. So rather than smelling the roses or trampling the roses, be the rose. Exactly. So very, very artfully spoken. Thank you. So yeah, rushing doesn't serve us. And as we hurry, we become less cognizant of what's around us, which makes us more prone to mistakes and more prone to overlook things that need our attention. And there is a way to be in flow and get more accomplished than we can possibly get accomplished when we're rushing, which is a really interesting dynamic, you know, where we really truly do have the ability to expand time and to, because time is a construct. So we can expand this space in a single moment. We've all heard about people who have near-death experiences where they're dead for a minute or less or longer, and the experience of time in this other dimension, in this other phase, in this other space, is expanded into hundreds of years or eons or multiple lifetimes. And then when they return, just a few minutes have passed, if that. And so our time is bounded by our concept. And as we are able to expand that concept, we can expand the experience of time. And so when people say, you know, I'm getting older and there's only so much time left in my life, and I want to do something that makes a difference, that's not bounded by time, in truth. Lisa says, I have to work at noon today. I keep looking at the clock to figure out how much longer I can stay in my jammies, LOL. Not thinking about rushing at all, LOL. There you go, Lisa. It's, you know, this rushing thing can be very much very intricately woven into the fabric of our lives without our awareness even. It's one of these things that goes unnoticed. And I think it's a really good opportunity to look at how rushing shows up in our lives. You know, like the more, I don't know about you, but sometimes I've seen the more I hurry, the slower things go, you know, the more obstacles get created. And why would that be? Because hurrying is resistance. You know, rushing is thinking, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time. So the world, the universe feeds back, okay, you don't have enough time, we're going to make it worse. We're going to make it complicated. We're going to give you traffic jams. We're going to give you complications because you're setting up all this resistance and sending out into the world, rather than I have everything in perfect timing. I have all the time I need. And Elaine says, I will send you a picture of a rose in my yard. It expresses beyond words if you want. I would love that. I would love that. And, you know, Elaine, as you're speaking about that, it reminds me of the story of the little prince and the rose that it plays a pivotal part in as one of the characters in that book. If you haven't read The Little Prince by I forget the first name, but Saint Exupéry is French. Anyway, forgive me my French, my torturing French expression accent. Anyway, I think I'm going to call it a day this morning because there's an awesome seminar that actually started at 9. It's on something called the metaverse, which you guys may or may not have heard of, but it's a whole new world, literally. Anyway, I'm going to go check that out. And I just want to say thank you for being here, for considering these morning musings, for expanding your willingness to think about things in different ways. And oh my gosh, it's Friday. For some reason, I was thinking it's Thursday. See, time. I really don't have much of a sense of time. Anyway, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And please check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network, the wonderful community. And once again, thank you. So much love and appreciation to you for your presence and your authenticity and for keeping me company every weekday morning. So much love.